Good afternoon. I think with the interest of time in mind, we'll go ahead and get started. Today is the first of two webinars on clubs that thrive, 4-H clubs that thrive. And this is brought to you by the 4 regional specialists across the state. We have some new folks. So I'm Amy Solik. I'm out in the Southwest region, 4-H Youth Development Specialist. You other ladies want to introduce yourself?
I'm Chandra Plate. I'm in the Northwest region.
I'm Kelsey Nordyke. I'm in the Southeast region and Northeast region.
I'm Beth Henshaw, and I really share the eastern half with Kelsey.
Yeah, we're happy to be here. Like I said, this is the first of 2 sessions on Clubs That Thrive. This is being recorded. So if you've got coworkers that are not able to participate or you want to be able to refer to it, it will be recorded and we will share these slides with you as well. So with that, let's get started.
So today we're going to do a quick 4-H policy review over some of the things that are in 4-H policy. And we're going to start with types of clubs. And again, there's the 4-H club, there's independent members, and there's other delivery mode standards in 4-H policy. So if you're curious what someone needs to do to be an independent member, you need to go to 4-H policy in section 6, and it will talk to you about that. But today we're going to focus on the different types of clubs again, and just talk about what a 4-H club should look like. So the 4-H structure of 4-H clubs are that it can be a community club or a project club. Other delivery modes that we have are 4-H out of or in school clubs, military clubs, and special interest or short-term programs. As we focus on 4-H clubs, the 4-H community club is intended to be flexible, but it also needs to be led and advised by 2 or more screened and approved adult volunteers. They need to have at least 5 youth members from at least 3 families. Emphasize project exploration, leadership, and civic engagement, and conduct a minimum of 6 regular educational experiences per year. Many clubs hold 9 to 12 regular activities per year, and gatherings include, but are not necessarily limited to, business meetings, project meetings, service learning opportunity, field trips, and other types of 4-H experiences. They also are made up of a group of young officers who are 4-Hers, and so they need to elect their 4-Hers who are officers to provide direction to the club with shared youth leadership opportunities for the younger members as well. Keep meeting at project and financial records and submit the required reports to your offices for your county board meetings, and follow state and local 4-H policy. They also must be a chartered club and have a 4-H charter. And that's important because the 4-H charter is issued by the Department of Agriculture, and our 4-H program leader is the person who signs that charter and gives permission for that club to use the 4-H clover. Next slide.
I'm just going to pause for any questions.
Oh, okay. Is the next one the project meeting one or project club? Okay. Oh, it's the charter one. Okay, so going back, we can also have a 4-H project club, and they also have those things in common with a 4-H community club, but they will emphasize one 4-H particular project. So if it's a 4-H dog club, it will emphasize the dog project. The reason that we are now allowing, the only change in policy around any of this is that we are now allowing 4-Hers who are in a project club to also take other projects. And the reason for that is because if a family only has time for one 4-H club, it helps to have that opportunity. We want them to be able to join. But again, the 4-H project club focuses on one 4-H project. So if it's 4-H shooting sports, they will focus on 4-H shooting sports. And that is the project that they will focus on. Families can continue to be part of more than one club if they choose to, but the 4-H project clubs are an option. And if they also need to be chartered and have youth members if they are an actual project club and not just a project meeting. Are there questions?
You know, a lot of this, if you attended Program Rally, it may seem redundant, and we realize that, but we figured, A, it wouldn't hurt to hear it twice, and B, maybe you'd have questions since you first heard it, and actually, C, or for 3, we may be reaching people today that weren't in attendance at Program Rally. So this was something that caused some questions at Program Rally, this concept of really understanding what a 4-H project club is. So I do want to just take a pause to answer any questions you may have.
I have one quick question that's kind of about community clubs. Chandra mentioned allowing families to participate in multiple clubs, which makes sense with the community club and project club overlap. Do you have any guidance on families that put multiple community clubs on their enrollment? Locally, we asked them to select one because it makes sense for our pancake feed and a couple of other fundraisers and things we do. I just was wondering if we're like clashing with state policy by asking that, or if you had any recommendations.
I would have big reservations about families enrolling in more than one community club. From the pure standpoint, I mean, I guess more power to them. I barely have time for the one. I had others chime in on this, I guess.
I don't know that I have reservations so much as a 4-H mom. Why? It's a lot. I don't think you're clashing with 4-H policy to ask that, Grace. Because if I remember correctly, when you enroll, you do choose a primary club. I guess, you know, that does raise some implications, because if you're a member of multiple clubs and clubs have some countywide responsibilities, you know, you would have, as a member of multiple clubs, you would be asked to participate in multiple county responsibilities. And I suppose if you've got time for that, great. So no, I don't believe that you're going against anything policy wise. So.
And
Awesome.
the only
Thank you.
other, I think it's important to clarify that while you technically could enroll in a community club and a project club, we aren't really saying like encouraging that. I think the idea is that a young person, if they're solely focused on one project area and maybe they want to dabble here and there in another one, then the project club is probably where they need to be. If they're already a member of a community club, but want to enroll in a project and there happens to be a project club in that, they can still attend project meetings specific to that project. Doesn't mean they have to enroll in the project club. Like, I mean, if it's a if it's a legit chartered project club, there'd be a lot of redundancy, and I think it would overwhelm some families to try to maintain 2 memberships and 2 fully functioning chartered clubs. So again, it's a nuance, and we talked about this at Program Rally, but I just want to say it again, like there is a difference from participating and attending project meetings versus actually enrolling in a project club.
Right.
So if that causes confusion, let us know and we can try to clear that up.
There's a question in the chat that says, so if they don't have officers, they aren't a project club? The answer to that is, are they chartered? And if they are chartered, they should have officers. So that would be something they need to get done. If they're not chartered, they're not a project club, they're a project meeting group. And so, that's the answer to that one. Members would still need to enroll in a community club for that project. Yes, if they are not part of an actual project club, they need to be in part of a 4-H club. And so if it's a project group, in order to be part of that project group, they need to be enrolled in 4-H as part of a 4-H club. So they would be in a community club.
One thing I might mention is, when you have a project club who is putting together their constitution and bylaws, they may not have all of the same officers that a community club has. So when we're talking about youth officers, we definitely want youth officers, but it may not look exactly the same between community clubs and project clubs.
Earlier today, I got asked a question about if we have a project club, are they part of our 4-H council like the community clubs are? And that's where you need to go back and look at your 4-H council constitution and bylaws and see how it was set up and what you need to do as a county based on how that is set up.
And if your bylaws don't address that, then the question could be asked by the club or anybody if you need to review those bylaws. And that's one thing I believe we talk about here in a couple of minutes on things that you do need to review. If clubs are not, including 4-H council, reviewing their bylaws at least biannually, they need to be, thinking about that. So.
All right. Kelsey, charters.
All right. Charters, fun stuff. The 4-H charter application is located online, and that is listed there for club resources. Every organized community club, project club must apply for and receive the charter through the state 4-H office. Know that they cannot send that to the state office and get a charter without your signature. It must be approved at the local level. And that charter is issued by the state 4-H office, and it is as a division of USDA. So that charter recognizes that group as a functioning 4-H club, and it recognizes that the members of that group are going to subscribe to 4-H policy, the code of conduct, the volunteer code of conduct, and get information turned in as far as financial reviews and any other required documents that your local unit asks for. The possession of that charter does not sorry, I'm reading as we do this. So the 4-H charter doesn't qualify a club as a legal entity according to the state government or business policies and definitions. And charters don't allow recognized clubs to share their rights and privileges with any other person, group, or business. So an example of that would be purchasing things. So a 4-H club with a charter does have an EIN, and then therefore they are not subject to sales tax. So they cannot share that privilege with a volunteer or a member of the club. They also have special privileges and rights to use the 4-H Clover. That does not, and they cannot share those separately. So if you have a 4-H club, they cannot share their use of the Clover with a booster club, say that raises funds for the livestock sale, would be an example of that. So because they have a charter, they also are expected to protect the Clover and follow 4-H policy. The ways to get the charter, so on that charter application, there's several steps that they have to go through. One is that they have 5 or more members from 3 or more families that are participating actively in the club. They have 2 or more fully screened adult volunteers that are active in the club. They have an initial place of operation where they have been meeting for at least 3 months in advance. And democratically elected youth officers, again, as Beth mentioned earlier, depending on whether it's a community club or a project club, and even within your community club, you may not have all of the same officers. You may not have a historian, you may not have a parliamentarian. It may just depend on the size of your club. Each member is enrolled in at least one 4-H project. You have an official club or group name, and then a constitution and bylaws filed with the extension office. And your constitution and bylaws really are just what tells you how this club is going to operate. Questions about charters? Awesome.
All right, we are going to move on to 4-H finance. There were some things in policy maybe that got clarified just a little bit more. And so we're just going to go over those. First of all, we know that all clubs have to have an annual financial review. And this is really part of keeping our nonprofit status and our tax deductible status. 4-H clubs are considered under the IRS a 170C1, and they are connected through their EIN under the EIN of the Extension Council. Our dean and director is responsible for all money made in the name of 4-H, but that responsibility is then handed down to extension councils. So that is why the extension councils have that responsibility each year for reviewing 4-H club accounts. Another piece is that the adults who are signatories on 4-H club accounts should be registered volunteers. And we would like at least 2 people on, and that's what policy says, at least 2 registered volunteers will be approved signatories on 4-H club accounts. We still have the officers who can be on there, the treasurer, the president, whatever makes sense. But at least 2 of the signatories need to be adults. I think there's some people who read that in the policy that it's only adults who are signatories on the account. And that's not it. What we're saying is the minimum is 2 adults, but we can certainly have the youth officers on there as well. The last piece is, just as we think about 4-H club financial management, the information is in the treasurer's book each year. I believe Dr. Onstead sends a note out each year also reminding us about it's time to let our clubs know that we'll be undergoing an annual financial review. And so as you're doing that, it's important that you're looking at those financial reviews, especially comparing them to the year before. I think that's an important piece. And if you ever have a time where you're not getting financial reviews in, please talk to one of the regional specialists because we want to help you with that. You know, when clubs are not undergoing the financial review, they really can't be considered a 4-H club. They don't have the they can't use the Clover. They're not recognized by the IRS as a 170 C1 organization. They can't accept tax deductible donations and so on. So if you're having an issue getting those reviews, please let us know. I think sometimes people get the feeling like it's our money, meaning it's the club's money, and nobody needs to know about it. But the truth is, 4-H money is public money, and so we have some really important responsibilities when we're thinking about being in charge of public money. Are there questions about 4-H finances? One of the last things that I will say is another part about financial management is that your club has to maintain charter strength in order to continue with their 4-H finances. And Kelsey reviewed that for us about 5 members from 3 different families. So just know that there's maybe several things that we'll be, looking for as far as 4-H finance with clubs. And again, if we can help you, let us know that.
There are some things that need to be reviewed annually. Beth mentioned charter strength. Charter strength really is just looking at the strength of that club. Does it have 5 members from 3 different families? Are they regularly scheduling meetings? Do you have at least 2 screened appointed volunteers that are volunteering with that club? So those are some things. Are they turning in their financial review? Those are some things to review with your clubs as enrollment comes in. You will likely have a good idea of your clubs that might be struggling, but it's always good to have a look near the beginning of the year at what your clubs look like. Typically during fair, we learn some things about our clubs when everybody comes together. And so that would be a time to maybe get on your radar who you need to be looking at and helping and encouraging. Other items to review or items to do on an annual basis is club visits. Now, we don't expect you, especially, and this is going to depend on the size of your county and when your clubs meet. You may not be able to get to every club in your local unit within a 12-month period, but every other year, every couple of years would be good. In addition, having club leader meetings and volunteer trainings and development throughout the year, have something on a regular basis. Certainly more than once a year. We believe quarterly would be best management practice as far as club leader meetings and volunteer development. And when you go do those club visits, don't just go and sit and watch the meeting. Take something for the kids and the adults and the leaders present to learn from. So have some type of team building activity or something that would help improve their parlor during their club meeting, or do something fun. Also financial review annually. Beth mentioned that under financial information as well. Make sure that as you're asking for those, that you've got some strength behind asking for those, and you're not just asking and then letting it go. Those clubs do need to turn that in every year. Typically, when we have a club that is hesitant to turn in their financial review information, it's because there's an issue there. In the local unit, twice I found out that there were some shady things going on when I had a leader who would not turn in financial information. And again, that financial information should not be in the hands of the leader. It should be in the hands of the 4-H member. Also review your Club Seal documents. We don't have a statewide Club Seal program, but it's important to review what your Club Seal requirements are on an annual basis. Do they still have items in there that clubs can do? Are they achievable for clubs? Are they meeting the goals of 4-H and including different items like leadership and citizenship and personal development and things that their clubs can do? Have you removed opportunities? You know, I know that some units have had to back away from having a regional 4-H day. Is regional 4-H day still one of your requirements on your Club Seal document? So make sure that you're keeping them timely, but also review whether you can add additional options on there and check to see if they're really working for your clubs. Questions on items to review? Okay. And Amy will have the club program plan next.
Yeah, so something new that we thought would be very helpful and very practical at the local level was to create a document that was sort of a template for community, well, I shouldn't say community clubs, clubs of all kinds, to use and help set them up for success. So this document will be an official publication. We're working with the folks at the bookstore to make that happen. Now that the bookstore is up and running, thank you. So there are a couple different sections of this publication. The first one would include youth leadership and adult support. So who are your officers? And I mean, like, this is not rocket science. It's just literally a place to keep your club organized and make sure that they're thinking about all the roles that would help them be successful for the year. So different club adult leaders, the organizational support there, and the youth leadership. So who are your youth officers? Another section would be for them to establish some club goals. And that may look a little different for each club. I would imagine that they would take into their club seals into account. I imagine the process of setting club goals might look a little different depending on the age or the makeup of a club. It might be more appropriate for the officers and leaders to work on that. Maybe there's an opportunity for input or feedback from the entire membership. So how they choose to do that specifically may vary, but we do want clubs to think about what they want to accomplish, how they want to get stronger each year as a club. That reinforces the belonging. It reinforces the decision-making, all those things that we're trying to accomplish through a 4-H club. The next section that it would include is committees. So what are those standing committees that are maybe written in your bylaws? What are the committees that you establish on an as-needed basis? So, basic things like I think a lot of clubs have a booth committee or a parade committee, a holiday committee, what have you. And maybe you have something more unique related to a fundraiser or some local event. Maybe there's a community service committee. Maybe there's a fundraiser committee, all those types of things. Where you would list out who's on the committee, who's going to be a co-chair, what adult parent is going to help support that. Then the other thing in that publication would be the monthly program plan. And I think this is maybe not more important than the other sections, but I think the part of the process that really sets them up for success. What does each month look like? How is that club going to spend their time together? If they only get together for an hour, hour and a half each month, how do they maximize their time that they spend together? How do they make sure that it's not 90 minutes of a business meeting, sitting down, making motions? How do they incorporate hands-on activities? How do they incorporate learning? How do they incorporate social time? What guest speakers do they want to include? Is there maybe a theme for the year that they want to pick? But spell it out each month. What's that educational core program look like? And to support that thought process, we've got two different, the big one for me is the club meeting wheel. That pie graph, chart graphic, if you will, that kind of gives some ideas about how to spend the time, right? Each club meeting has I think it's group building, I think it's decision making, and maybe like, forget the third one, what it's called, forget the title. Again, it's a good prompt to get them thinking beyond talks and demos. I do think a lot of clubs put in talks and demos, and that's the educational program for the month. And it's really could be a lot more than that if they were intentional about thinking about it on the front end. So again, be looking for this publication. We did hear after we sort of shared that concept with you at Program Rally that the back page, which was sort of like a snapshot of an entire year, it's pretty tiny, but it's an entire year's worth of meetings and kind of some things to think about or to put on their radar. We heard from several folks that you would like that to be available as like a Word document where you can edit it and kind of craft it for your local needs. And so we plan on doing just that as well. So this will be a full, PDF publication available from the bookstore, but we will make that very last page available as a Word document for you to customize locally. Okay. Time to interact a little bit. We've got a survey. So I think there's a link in the chat box if you'd like to go that route, or if you'd like to fill it out by your phone, if that's easier, you can scan the QR code. But we would like to know what you think is your number one concern with your current 4-H clubs. So as we move along in this Clubs That Thrive effort, we want to hear from you directly. What are you most concerned about with your existing clubs? So take a minute to think about that and respond to the survey. I should have had like Jeopardy music at the ready. While you're doing that, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to chime in. Brandy's asking, who do we contact at the state level for a list of chartered clubs in their county? Is that still Donna?
I believe that is Donna.
There's Donna. Is that you, Donna?
For chartered clubs, if you want charter information right now, that's Mackenzie. We're working on one place for charters and EINs, but that's not done yet. So I do EIN, she does charters.
Gotcha. Thank you. Good question, Brandy. The default answer is always Donna or Mackenzie. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you've been able to respond to that Qualtrics question. I only see 3, so I'm gonna wait. Or maybe you just don't know how to give a thumbs up. Okay, we'll keep moving then.
Awesome. So this next part is Chandra and I, we're going to discuss starting new 4-H clubs that thrive. And forthcoming is a document that the regional specialists have put together that talks about starting clubs that thrive. And so there's a lot of different ways that new clubs begin in your local unit. And we thought that there were some basic steps to follow. So the first step there is gathering information. And to be really transparent with you, we looked at an older document that we had that had information about starting clubs. And the gathering information portion of that really hit on basically, if you're an agent and you think you might want a new club, here's some things to do. And you look at your demographic data and all of that. And sometimes that's necessary, but oftentimes you're approached by someone who wants to start a new club. Gathering information is still the first step in that. So you need to look and make sure there's a need for a new club. Is it being requested by new or existing 4-H families? And really look at what that felt need is. If it's a little bitty town and somebody comes to you because they don't like the club that they're in and they want to start a new club a block away, that's probably not a good reason to start a club. So we need to look, and you don't have to start a club. So don't be like Kelsey was in the local unit thinking, oh, well, I have to let them start this club. You don't have to let somebody start a new club because there really needs to be a need for that. And it's important to involve your 4-H PDC or your extension board. And that's where we're going to look at enlisting local unit support. So whether someone has presented you with what they feel is a need for a new club, or whether you as the professional feel like there is a need for a new club, whether it be in a school or a local community, you need to utilize your local unit support. And this is where your 4-H PDC can be really helpful. And I'm going to back up just a little bit and kind of combine your gathering information and your enlisting local support, because those can go hand in hand. Part of that could entail doing an informational survey and see what kind of 4-H contacts you might have. See if you have any 4-H contacts in that community or that area of your local unit. You can use promotional brochures along with that to help promote your local 4-H program. And there may be a need because part of your county is sparsely populated and families are having to travel a significant distance in order to attend a local 4-H club. So make sure that you're gathering your information and enlisting the support of your 4-H PDC, because that's not only going to help you identify what the need is, but it's also going to help identify any potential volunteers in that area. So you're going to evaluate that local program, determine what potential 4-H members there are in that area, as well as what potential volunteers, and we have a whole process in here in our booklet that we'll get to you as far as calculating and meeting with your PDC and determining whether your felt need is an actual need. From there, you're going to move forward with extension board approval. You're not going to initiate a new club in your local unit without having the board's blessing. And I believe that it's important to have that recorded in the local board minutes that you have presented that you're ready to begin this new club. And then from there, you're going to go and have an informational meeting with the people who are interested in joining and volunteering with that 4-H club. You're going to follow that with an initial organizational meeting for the club, and then a club meeting with the charter requirements. Along with that, your informational meeting is going to be an opportunity to begin promoting the new club, and that is after extension board approval. It'll help you to determine a location for the meeting and make sure that that meeting is focused on belonging and engagement of potential members and families. The things that you might want to think about with those are, do you need an interpreter to make sure that we are including everyone? Do you need to have people meet in small groups to discuss what the club might focus around? Maybe that club is focused around a school. Maybe that club is focused around a particular project area. So you want to make sure that you're involving the youth and adults in that and sharing together what those ideas are. There's information and resources that can be found on the Club Corner website that are really helpful to those potential new families. It's likely that if you're beginning a new club, it might be a first generation 4-H club. And so there's some really helpful information there, including the new family guide. There's the 4-H learning pathway and connecting new families to 4-H. And so you can also at this meeting keep a list for future reference of who attended and really reach out to them and make sure that you're including them as you move forward. During that organizational meeting, you'll need to make sure that you have a personal contact with all of the parents who initiated or who designated their interest from the informational meeting, and make sure that you are corresponding with them. During that meeting, you're going to emphasize the essentials of the 4-H club, that the members and the leaders are working in an educational environment. Remember that it's a youth club where the youth make decisions, not a youth club where the adults make the decisions for the youth. So we want to make sure that our youth have a voice, especially in this organizational meeting. The things that would happen within that meeting would be a group building activity. Determine what needs to happen for the youth as a result of belonging to the group. Determine the ages of the youths represented at this meeting. So knowing that our 4-H age is 7 to 18, but we do have those clover buds as well. Take an inventory of the parents' skills and note what parents are willing to volunteer and help with, and also begin explaining the role of that parents committee. Share a sample agenda from the club corner on the website. These are some things that might help you get through your meeting. Also sharing that club program planning. I really like the part of that club program planning guide where it has the months listed and it talks about this is what our roll call is going to be. This is what our educational activity is going to be. And it's not so much, and it's easier for a youth to look at and a new family to look at than an actual printed agenda for a business type meeting. So I think that those are really helpful in promoting a new group as well. Determine the dates and the times of future meetings. This will depend on the type of club format they choose to do. Determine the location and decide who's going to be in charge of contacting the members about the meetings. This would be where you might combine that task with a new family coordinator or a parent committee. Set the date for a parents committee meeting because we want to make sure that we have a parents committee that is helping to identify the potential volunteers who will serve as community leaders for that club, but also the parents committee is really important to help support those volunteers who do end up volunteering to be the community leader. Share the club officer position description so they can begin thinking about what positions they want to fill. And then you're going to plan that first meeting. And that first club meeting is going to be the one where you're going to have the charter requirements. You're going to have a group building activity, a decision-making portion. And during that decision-making portion, you're going to choose the club name, have officer elections, and read some suggested constitution and bylaws. Of course, we're going to have the program and the refreshments as well, because we want a club meeting that youth choose to attend. And then schedule that next session. I think I have said all my slides, Chandra. Any questions? And maybe we'll wait until Chandra covers, and I covered a little bit of the charter meeting there too as well, so I apologize for that. Maybe we'll wait for questions after Chandra gets done with her portion.
So when you have your meeting, your first official meeting of your 4-H club, you're going to want to have a get to know you activity, icebreaker activities, things that help the youth feel like they belong. We also want the parents to feel like they belong and any younger brothers or sisters. So think about all of those things. Then they'll have the decision-making piece of the meeting, which is the business portion of the meeting. And during that portion, it's important that they choose a club name, adopt a constitution and bylaws, and elect officers, because those are all three part of what they will need to turn in for their application for their charter. Then, and again, those officers are youth. They're not adult officers. Those are youth officers. Then they can have a program. And again, think about what is fun and would be a good kickoff. If your club has a project that they're centered around or a theme, this is a good time to bring that out as well. And then don't forget the recreation and refreshments portion of the meeting, because that's another important piece of belonging, because it gives those youth and adults time to visit with one another and start to develop those relationships, which are two building blocks of our soil that we are trying to build these thriving clubs upon. So those are the pieces of your meeting that you're going to make sure that you have when you are doing starting a 4-H club that is going to be chartered. Are there any questions?
Forgive me if you mentioned this, but this is also going to be a publication, correct?
Yes.
And I guess the other thing that I would remind everybody is that this is for community clubs or project clubs. It's the same for both.
And there also is a piece on here towards the end of the document that talks about how to work with schools and starting school clubs, or in starting a club that meets in a school. So that piece is in there also.
Okay. That brings us to survey number 2. If you would take a moment, Beth just posted the second link in the chat if you want to fill it out on your computer, or you can scan the QR code. But what are the top 3 things that would help you, help your local 4-H clubs thrive? So what do you need? What do you need from us to help you be successful? Let me give you a minute. And I guess I'd open it up briefly if anybody is willing to share 1 or 2 things that they think they need or that would be helpful to you. Anybody wants to put it in the chat or even unmic themselves. Anybody got something good?
I wish that our clubs would share more than keep things a secret. And I don't know how to get them to share. And we have quarterly leaders meetings, but it's like they're reluctant to say what they're doing that works, like it's sometimes a secret.
Yeah, that's interesting because they could definitely, like, everybody could benefit from what's working well.
Full disclosure, we have a county club trophy, and so I know that puts some competition in there, but I just wish they'd share more.
Jill, maybe some of the competition or, part of those things that are part of that would be how you've shared what's happening in your club, because you're so right. That is so powerful for another club to be able to actually use something that's working somewhere in another club.
Anybody else willing to share?
Yeah, so in my county, the clubs are pretty cliquish, if you will. So like this club is the livestock club, even though they haven't declared it or whatever, like everyone there does livestock. And if you want to do horses, well, you need to go to the horse club. But they're not project clubs, they're regular community clubs. Same thing with like shooting sports. We have a shooting sports club. And if you want to do livestock, you need to go to the livestock club. If you're an art person, you need to go to the art club. What do we do about that? Because they can be in multiple projects. They can show a goat and participate in public speaking at county club days. Like, but there seems to be this culture that they can't, if you will.
Casey, I would say you're probably not unique in that. When I was in the local unit, there was one club that was heavily livestock. And there was another club that was heavily entomology, because that's what the bulk of those members participated in. Um, eh, uh, Now, and I guess my question to you would be, of those clubs, the horse club, are those members only enrolled in the horse project? Because usually what we'll see is a club may be known as the livestock club or as the horse club or whatever, but those kids are actually participating in other projects as well. So are you seeing them participate in more than just the one or two projects?
Not really. So when I look through 4-H online, like the horse club, it's usually horse and then they'll be in like photography or goat, and then that's it. Same with the livestock. They'll show beef and swine, or they'll show swine and that's it.
Mhm.
So they are pretty darn cliquish. I actually earlier or last year, I guess, had one girl in the horse club and she wanted to show more livestock animals. So she actually felt pressured to move to the livestock club and stop showing her horse because she wanted to try out, I believe it was a pig or something. But yeah, it was like, you can stay in this club and show a horse and show a pig. You don't have to give one up for the other. And
Yeah.
that was like a interesting concept, if you will.
Yes, so it could be just an opportunity for some education, either through your newsletter or through your volunteer leader trainings too. Making sure that they know that you're not a project club, and asking them to help promote some of those things, because there are so many what I call crossover projects. I would say photography is a crossover project because it pairs well with any other project. Foods pairs well with some other projects. Horticulture pairs well with another project. Crops pairs great with our livestock projects. So some of those encouragements, and maybe it's some education in your newsletter about, hey, you're in the horse project. Have you considered looking at agronomy? Are you growing your own hay? Are you, how are you feeding your livestock? And also encouraging the leadership and citizenship aspect of those things too, as well as communications. Communications fits with every project that we've got. So it may be just time for some communication or some education through your newsletter countywide, and also to your community leaders. And maybe you have a training specific to that, teaching them how they can share all of the project opportunities for 4-H, because we have over 30 projects.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good discussion. All right, looking forward, we wanted to mention a couple things. First being, like, this is the first of two. So a week from today, we'll be having the second one. Same time, same place, 2:30 to 3:30 on February 20th. And then the following week is a pairs reporting webinar that we wanted to make sure was on your radar. KAE 4HA is hosting that on February 27th at 2:00 p.m. So I think we could all stand to benefit from a little more training on pairs and reporting. So make sure that that one is on your calendar. It'll also be recorded and available at a later date if you can't make that fit into your schedule. So final thoughts from Chandra, Kelsey, Beth, before we wrap up today?
If you think of additional things later, be sure to reach out to one of us. Or if there's things that you don't want to say out loud, make sure to reach out to one of us too.
And we appreciate you all logging on today and appreciate the way that you support all the clubs in your local extension unit.